And yes, I know everyone and their mama has a glow up series on YouTube, but how many of them are graduate students actually studying behavior change? I'll wait. Exactly. Hello, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Naomi, and I'm a third year PhD student studying at the intersection of computer science and public health. And today I'm here to introduce my Road to 30 Glow Up series. I know that I mentioned it a couple videos ago, but I'm about 4 months out from my 30th birthday, and I am definitely feeling the urge to make some changes. If you've ever come up on a milestone birthday, then you probably can relate that you start to look back over your life and consider some things. Perhaps you even make some comparisons to your peers in terms of your own journey and where you thought you would be, or what you have accomplished and perhaps what you would like to accomplish. So I thought the best way to spend the next 4 months would be to dedicate it to getting very serious about certain things in my life that I want to see change. I think that it's very we shouldn't treat ourselves like perpetual projects. I think that that is not healthy. However, I do think that it is totally normal and it's okay to want to introduce change into your life. And so I'm hoping that by using some of the theories that I've learned in my program, I can be a little bit more realistic about implementing changes. I think one of the issues that I've run into in the past a lot, and a lot of you can probably relate to it, is that you consider a change and you get gung ho about it. And for the first, several weeks, it might be a lot easier because you're going off of momentum, off of excitement. But in terms of that long term sustainable change, it's not easy. It's not easy. And we oftentimes find ourselves back to square one a lot sooner than we would like. So I'm hoping that through this series, we can kind of not totally circumvent these circumstances, but at least just improve a little bit, right? I'm very much a progress over perfection kind of girl. I think perfection is impossible a lot of the time, and we set ourselves up for failure when we insist upon it. But progress, I'm all for that. I'm all for that. So let's learn something. This leads me to introduce the transtheoretical model of behavior change. So, this theory was introduced around 1977 by Dr. James Prochaska, and basically, he proposed that behavior change happens in a series of phases. It doesn't happen overnight, it doesn't happen all at once, rather, over several months at a time. And oftentimes, we also have to account for the fact that, again, we are human beings, and oftentimes our habits are very much baked into our DNA. So we are fighting against nature, we are fighting against nurture sometimes, and it's a process, right? So those phases of change include the pre-contemplation phase, which means that you're not even thinking about making a change. It's not even on your radar. Then you have the contemplation phase, where you perhaps are thinking about making a change, doing something different, but you don't necessarily have any concrete plans, and you don't really you're not really thinking about making changes for at least like 6 months. Then you move on to the preparation phase. Preparation phase means you're getting ready to start making changes within the next month or so, right? And then you move on to action. So that is actually acting upon the change that you want to make, whether that be losing weight, whether that be stopping smoking, for example. And then you have the maintenance phase. So at the maintenance phase, you have maintained the behavior change for about 6 months. And finally, again, we have to account for the fact that we are human. And so there is a relapse phase where you potentially go back into your old behavior. Okay. So if you're having trouble following me, I created a small example to hopefully help illustrate it, and hopefully this will help you understand it just a little bit easier. And I added some notes on my graphic here. Hopefully that's the plan, right? Okay. So, for instance, let's take someone who is trying to start a new exercise habit. So in the pre-contemplation phase, it's just not on their radar. So let's say they're ignoring the different gym promos in their email, right? Or the different billboards or the just the different ways they could potentially start engaging in this habit. Again, it's not on their radar. Now they get into the contemplation phase where they're starting to think, maybe I do want to start taking a yoga class, for example. That'll be our example habit. I'm thinking about starting a yoga practice, but again, no concrete plan to actually get started anytime soon. Now, this person eventually moves into the preparation phase. They're starting to get a little bit more serious about wanting to do yoga. And so they perhaps take measures like buying a yoga mat or some leggings and maybe even signing up for a class. But they have yet to actually take the yoga class. They are still in the preparation phase. They are preparing to begin their new habit. Hopefully sooner rather than later, they actually take the yoga class and they begin to consistently attend maybe a couple times a week or however frequently, and they start to build up this habit or this new behavior. And this phase usually is about less than 6 months, and you move into the maintenance phase after you have maintained the habit for over 6 months. So in the case of our random person, they have successfully maintained their yoga class weekly routine now for over 6 months. Wonderful, dandy. And then perhaps life happens. And so they miss a few weeks. And depending on their circumstances, they could go back to the pre contemplation phase or they could go back to the action phase, for example. And I think this is a good time to point out the fact that you don't have to start the cycle over and over again every time. Again, in this example, the person skipped a few weeks, which perhaps put them in relapse. But if they were to start going back to class, that would put them back in action, right? If they were to put their yoga mat back up for the next year and some change, then maybe they would be back in pre contemplation. So I do want to keep in mind that yes, it is a cycle, but you don't always have to start at the beginning of the cycle, if that makes sense. Okay, cool. Okay, Naomi. So you have introduced this theory to us. What exactly are you going to apply it to? I'm glad you asked. So there are 5 domains that I am hoping to glow up in over the next 4 months and beyond, of course, but starting, we're starting here, okay? And those 5 domains include health and wellness, work and academics, creativity, home, and social life. So those domains might seem a little bit big picture right now, but there's several categories under each one that I'm hoping to address. For example, under my creativity domain, I have really been contemplating starting playing my instrument up again. For reference, I played the viola growing up and I stopped around my sophomore year of college because it just didn't work with my schedule anymore. But I'm really, really itching to play again. In fact, it's actually here with me right now, but I have to order some accessories to make playing a little bit easier and, for the best sound quality and all that jazz. So technically, I'm in the preparation phase for that habit or hobby. And then in my health and wellness domain, for example, I would really like to join a new workout studio. So we'll see where I am when we get to the end of these 4 months. But I hope that if you are looking to glow up in the next several months, or you're just interested in this kind of content, or you like the connection between scientific theory and regular old folks, then I hope that you stay tuned. For what it's worth, these are the same behavior change theories that scientists use to create interventions for people. So I think it's really cool, and if it can be used at the population level, I think it can be used at the individual level. So this is a little experiment that I'm doing, and I hope you stick around. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.